recommendations. We've heard 4 budgets in the last couple days, and I'm going to call on Shirley in just a moment. She's going to review a little bit with us exactly what we're doing, which would be great, really helpful. Shirley, why don't you go on, and then I'll speak to the committee just a little bit about how I plan to do it. So go ahead. Thank you.
Madam Chair, did you want me to go over the information first or the recommendations first? I have some information on the question that was asked about.
Oh, yes. Could you go through that when we get to that particular budget? Okay, let's do it that way. Remind me to call on you about that, though. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so for recommendations for the fee boards, BSRB and Healing Arts, we will need recommendations for 2021, 2022, and 2023. Now, if it's the same recommendation for all, you can do it in one motion. But if you have changes you want to make, then you probably need to do separate motions for the different years. As far as the differences in motions you can make during recommendations, you can add or delete money. You can add or delete language or provisos. You can make a motion to review something at omnibus. And again, I'll just remind you, that is if you want to add some money or delete some money, but you want to see what the ending balance is going to be after actions taken and wait till after the spring consensus revenue estimate, then if that action moves forward in House Appropriations, then we would put that request into the omnibus memo. And the last action that you can take is a notation, which is language that you can put in as a committee, and you can commend an agency for something they did good. You can put in a negative notation on something you think they should do better at, but it does not go any further. It's just in the record for the subcommittee report, and it does not go in the appropriations bill. And that's something that can be done in this committee only, none of the other appropriation type committees.
Say that again.
Notations are only provided in the budget committees.
Yes, okay. I thought you said only this budget committee. I'm like, well, I thought all the budget committees could do it. Okay, all right.
Any questions on that?
I don't think so. Okay. So I will just for you all who are new to a budget committee, I know a lot of you already know this, but what we do today are our recommendations. It's like a bill. So we've heard the bill, for instance, we heard these budgets, and today we're working it, meaning today we're doing recommendations on these budgets. And then what happens after this is on Tuesday, I am tasked with explaining our recommendations to the whole Appropriations Committee. So they call it, what do they call it? Report out. Yes. So I'll be reporting out on these 4 agencies on Tuesday to the Appropriations Committee, whatever we decided to do today. And so as Norma said, we can do motions. We're going to talk through each one of them. We can do notations. I will be explaining that to all of them. Thankfully, I am not the first person to report out. Bill Sutton will be doing that, and I'll be learning from him because in a different budget committee, and we'll have some tomorrow, some Monday, and then I go on Tuesday, which I'm just happy that he didn't put me first, to be honest. So, okay, so we're gonna first look at the 2 fee boards that we went over on Tuesday. And I am thinking I will bring up 21, 22, and 23, but if there's no discussion on a particular year, if there's nothing that we want to change or do, we'll probably the recommendation will be for all. We can do separate recommendations for each year if needed to, but unless something changes, probably we would want to just do it all together. So we'll start with the BSRB, the Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board. Shirley, remind me now, if the committee had questions on specific things, we have available the analysts we could ask or. Okay. Okay, thank you, David, for being here, by the way. Okay, so if y'all have questions, feel free, but, so I'm just going to open it up, the BSRB, what do y'all think? Does anyone have any comments? What's everyone feeling about this? And any questions are on the, feel free to ask any questions. Yes, Representative Amix.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at FY 2021, seems to me that very much in line.
In line, okay. All right. Representative Burris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if now is the appropriate time to ask this sort of a question, but I guess it is. It relates to FTE positions. And I don't remember if all of the FTE positions are filled, but I guess the question is more general. If, the agency, requests a certain number of FTE positions and they don't have some of them filled, they nevertheless get money appropriated to them on the basis of those positions. Is that correct?
So David, if I recall, all 9 of your positions are filled, if I remember, but go ahead and address that. Thank you. And you'll have to speak straight into that microphone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Dave Fye, the Executive Director for the Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board. And for our agency, we do have 9 full-time equivalent or FTE positions. All 9 of those positions are filled, and we don't have any expected retirements coming up in the near future. So I believe those will be filled the entire 3 years of the budget that is before you, unless something unforeseen happens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if we have issues with other agencies in connection with the FTE positions, we can just bring them up at that time?
Yes, at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Representative Riley.
Follow through on the previous rep's question though. So David, if you had 9 through the year and then halfway through the year you lost an employee for turnover, retirement or whatever, is that funds reserved for you to rehire again? And if so, do you have the ability to transfer that funds to paper copiers, anything like that, or is it set?
So, Madam Chair, the amount of funding is what the legislature approves. We have a plan in terms of how the money will be spent between categories of expenditure. We do have some flexibility to move that money should something unforeseen happen. But we plan to stick pretty close to the amounts that we have in the budget. In terms of the fee fund, if the money's not spent, the money will just stay in the fee fund. So it wouldn't really involve the money being transferred to different funds. But if it's not spent, the money just stays in the fund and just stays there until it will be needed in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to have a clarifying question that someone, Shirley or Dave, you could probably just acknowledge, but I believe that part of the process that we look at fiscal year 2021, 22, 23, they come back again next year. So if any of those changes did happen, those would be reported before this committee. Is that correct?
Except for 2021, because by next year it will be done.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. Okay, so Should we go on and talk about 22 and 23? Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Dave. You can, why don't you go ahead and sit down? We'll just, yeah. But are there any other further questions? And seeing none, do I hear a motion dealing with the Behavioral Science Regulatory Board or notation? Is there, would anyone like to? I'd like to know your will on this agency committee. Representative Wassinger.
I make a motion that we accept both the Behavioral Science Regulatory Board budgets for 2021, 22, and 23 presented.
Okay, so at the moment, we're only talking about the Behavioral Science Regulatory Board. Not yet are we talking about the Board of Healing Arts. We're doing those separate.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I withdraw my motion. We can do them together. That's what.
I'd like to do them separate.
Then I will amend my motion to approve the Behavioral Science Regulatory Board budget as recommended, as presented.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Yes, Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Was that motion for years 2021, 2022, and 2023?
Yes.
Perfect,
I
thank
can
you.
amend it again. Would you like me to do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, would you like to close on your motion, Representative?
Madam Chairman, I close.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously, I do believe, the budget for the BSRB for 21, 22, and 23. Okay, now committee, we're going to look at the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts. Thank you. We're going to look at the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts that we heard on Tuesday, and that is Shirley is our analyst for that, so she can answer any questions you all have. What discussion would you all like to make?
Madam Chair, if I could provide some additional information that was requested when we were discussing the healing arts. They do provide the 10% or $100,000. There is in statute, it's 753170. There are 55 different funds under this statute, which include some agencies in addition to fee boards. And one of the questions that was asked was, how does the money come out of their budget? That is through a regular banking procedure through accounts and reports. They actually withdraw that money before the money hits their account. So you never even see it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, do we have any discussion on this one? Any questions anybody has? I'll give you a minute to look it over. Representative Burris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would be interested to know, and I don't remember if this was specifically brought up, but I'm bringing up FTE positions again. I'm just wondering, are the Board of Healing Arts FTE positions all full? Are there positions that are open? I don't remember if that was specifically addressed. Thank you.
Yes, Tucker, are you on? Okay.
That was asked during the hearing, and I do believe he said those were all full at this time.
I seem to recall the same, but anyone have any other thoughts on that? Yes, Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just following my super scientific notes, I wrote down when he was listing out the breakdown of the staff, the only note that I made about vacant positions that there were 2 attorney positions open that they were working to fill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And do you also recall that they were working to fill those positions? Yeah, that's what I remember. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that question. Any other questions, thoughts? I would like to mention that I found it a little bit, this is a notation. I don't think this would be a motion, but I would like a little bit of breakdown when they did their FT positions by program. I asked that question, and at the moment, they just have everything under administration. This is on page 21. And I would be interested in how y'all felt about putting a notation about that, but I would like to know a little bit more of a breakdown of how those 62 FT positions fall, rather than just lumping everything into one. I don't know how y'all feel about that. Any thoughts? Representative Riley?
Madam Chair, I would agree with that. They had started out in 2017, 2018 with 60 FTEs, then increased that in 2019. He gave us some general, how many people were in licensing, how many in investigation. He gave us some numbers, but not anything specific.
So are you asking for a request for information on what the 62 people do, since they don't technically have their positions broken into separate programs? Are you asking for titles of what they do?
Actually, he did tell us licensing is between 7 and 10, investigative is between 12 and 15. He gave us that information. What I'm asking for is for future reporting. I would be interested in more detail so we don't have to ask. Where he has FT positions, well, I guess Shirley, FT positions by program, everything is lumped in. It has to do with the performance-based budgeting. Was that in here? And it was all lumped together. And I just,
Page 6.
okay, thank you. Yes, he had mentioned that, if I recall, or surely maybe you mentioned, but whoever, that that there was some breaking out into investigation and disciplinary and disciplinary, but then mentioned later that that wouldn't be broken out, if I recall, after this, and that the FT positions are just listed completely under administration. So my notation, what I'm thinking, but I'm happy to hear what y'all think, is a little more detail on that for the future rather than just putting it all together. I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Representative Wassinger?
I think that's entirely reasonable to request that. I mean, I'm not sure you want to hold their budget. No, but I think it's reasonable to ask Shirley to send them a note and ask them to break it down more.
And I would definitely have that before you report it out.
Okay, that would be great. Okay. How do y'all feel about that? Shirley, do we need to do a motion? Okay, just for notation.
And that wouldn't be a notation. You're asking, it's a request for information from me. So that's, unless you want to make a notation in the subcommittee report that you would read and then say this information was provided and here's what.
I think my request is for that information, but also for it to be in future reports.
Are you asking for them to separate out their budget into programs? That's a different issue.
Okay, so y'all help me here if you recall. Do I remember him saying that they had broken it out, but now they're going to be putting it together?
They consolidated, and a lot of times that's a budgetary consolidation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's my question is, are you wanting to expand into multiple programs?
Okay, I will say not for this particular budget. I'm fine with this budget. I'm okay recommending this budget out. But the next time we have a budget, I would like a little bit more information just given to us straight out of the bat, at the beginning.
And that, we can do that in the next budget cycle next year. You keep referring to programs, and I'm curious, do you want their budget next year broken out into multiple programs?
I would like that.
Okay, that's what I was trying to
Okay,
clarify.
Okay. And then also the FTE positions, how they fall into those.
Different programs will have how many FTEs are in that program. Yes, they do.
Perfect. Okay, Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I was right along with you of wanting to specifically understand not necessarily their categories of their budget, but categories of their FTEs.
Okay, any other? Yes, Representative Rajas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, I guess my curiosity is what's the end game? I mean, I think that's fine, but all of a sudden, we're now, instead of appropriators, we're managers. Especially in these small, I mean, I think that's, I mean, I understand for a greater understanding, and I think in the process of when they come before us, if we want, you know, but I think we're dangerously close to, you know, all of a sudden deciding for somebody else's, agency, we as appropriators will decide who they hire and who they fire. And maybe I'm seeing it wrong, but I think we're getting into the weeds where we've got a lot of big budgets, because if you're going to request this, then can I request FTEs for every, professor, every janitor? I mean, we could spend a lot of, I mean, you understand what I'm saying? I mean, I think I understand where you're going, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would say that's why it's not a motion to change anything. It's just a notation. A little bit of extra information would be helpful. So we know.
Okay, but I guess, and I want to make sure that it's not perceived, I'm not trying to be combative, I'm just trying to figure out how does that help us in the budget process? Because if they're not asking for an additional 10 FTEs, what, I'm just trying to figure out, as you look at the budget process, how does that help us, whether we approve or disapprove of their budget request? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yep. The only thing I would say is there are certain agencies that don't have some of those FTs filled. And in the future, it would be nice to know. And in this one, if they did ask for 10 more, where are they fitting in? It would be information I think that would be helpful to know in the future.
And I understand that. Believe me, when I was a young legislator, and I'm still young, but I asked for how many, positions need to be, that were not filled in the state of Kansas. And after 76 pages of them printing things off, I still didn't get the answer I wanted. So I just want you to be, again, I'm not trying to be combative. I'm just trying to figure out how I just feel we're getting dangerously close to starting to micromanage.
That's good. You can say, that's fine. That can, you can,
But you're
no problem.
you're the chair where you can do whatever you want. That's great.
Representative Burris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In response to this discussion, I was looking at the, and this is, I guess, by way of example, the BSRB's budget on page 21, and I was wondering if you were kind of looking at a breakdown like as simple as something as what the BSRB has on, 21. They've got program licensing and renewal and investigation and discipline. Is that sort of, okay.
Representative Riley, did you have a comment?
And Madam Chair, I really understand where the previous rep is coming from on are micromanaging these different departments that I think what we're really getting at is why in 6 years ago, we were at, let's say 8 years ago, we were at 45 FTEs, then we jumped to 53 and then to 60. So and now we're to 62, just some history explanation also on top of that. I have had a chance to visit with folks here, and so I have a little bit better explanation, but when this comes before the committee, maybe the committee didn't quite have that understanding. And so I'm okay with the 62 now, but I had to have a 30-minute conversation with the commission person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Yes, Representative Amix.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for clarification, the explanation on this budget is just for this budget. We're not asking for
Oh, no, just, yeah, just this one that seemed to lump everything under the administration. Just, yeah. Representative Burris.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. And I'm sorry to keep bringing FTE positions up, but I guess I just wanted to clarify whether, so with respect to the, the Board of Healing Arts, does the number 62 reflect 60 filled FTEs and then 2 non-filled FTEs in anticipation of, the hiring of 2 new attorneys?
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
And Shirley, did you have a comment?
Well, in listening to all the conversation, I just want to make sure I put this notation down correctly. When, as part of the notation, if you are asking the agency to break their budget out into different programs, that's not a request for information. That's a request for them to change their budgeting process. And I want to make sure I'm understanding. Do you just want information on the FTEs, or do you want them to break their budget into separate programs next year?
So are you asking about page 6, the performance measures? Or are you asking about?
I'm in essence asking, do you want a notation for next year for a better explanation of the 62 FTE in the different categories, or are you asking the agency to revamp their budget into separate programs?
I think I'm asking for the FTEs. Do you have a Representative Woodard?
Sort of. I think I guess I do have the glossary in front of me, but in my mind, surely I'm hearing programs kind of as like a division within each of these agencies. Some have consolidated and put everything under one budget line, such as administration. Some have put them under multiple budget lines. Within that administration budget line, say in the instance of the Board of Healing Arts, there's going to be internally different budgeting processes in there, but I think it's all under one general category. Am I interpreting that correctly?
If we could look at page 8, the summary of operating budget. If you were dividing this agency into different programs, up at the very top by program, you would have administration, and I'm just going to make some up, licensing, investigation. Let's say those are 2 different programs. Each program within their entire budget system would be broken into major objects of expenditure. So they would have to break each program into separate budget units or separate budgets, and then everything would roll up to a total. That's why when we say program, there's a lot more budgetary changes that are made.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on that? Okay, so committee, what is your, do I have a motion on the floor for the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts budget? Anyone? Representative Woodard?
I see Shirley unmuted.
Yes? Do we need,
Was your recommendation a motion that needs to be voted on?
well, do notations need to be voted on?
Yes.
Okay, then I didn't, I thought that you said something different at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we put in a notation that for future budgets, we would like FTE positions broken up into, I don't want to say the word program.
How about categories?
Categories, yes. So that's the motion. Second from Representative Burris. And is anyone discussion? Yes.
One question, that's just on this budget.
Yes, just on this budget. Because everything's lumped together. That's why. Yes, Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go ahead and support this motion. But as we look through other budgets, I really do think one of the previous representatives has talked about our role as appropriators versus managers. We have Senate confirmed governing bodies or directors that run these programs that are the managers and day-to-day and report back to this committee. So I will support this motion, but as we go ahead, I want to make sure we're not micromanaging the brilliant people we're putting in charge of our agencies.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, would you like to close on your motion? Me, sorry. Yes, I close. I made the motion. Okay, I close. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Now we will move on to recommendations for the budget of the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we recommend the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts budgets for 2021, 2022, and 2023 as presented and concurred by the governor. As amended.
Do we have a second? Representative Amick seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I close.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. We pass that. Okay, 2 of 4 behind us. Now let's look at the state library. We will pull that out unless you remember it. This is not completely fee funded, so we're moving to a little bit different thing. What is everyone thinking about the state library? Any thoughts? Any discussion, questions? Norma is our analyst, and she's here in case we need her. Yes, Representative Fairchild.
Since I'm new to this and just trying to understand the process, are we going to be voting on the agency's recommendation or the governor's recommendation? Since they're different on this, and you know the other ones were the same, they're different on this one, these.
You always start with the governor's recommendation because that's the appropriation bill is the governor's recommendation, and you're changing that.
Okay, so we're starting on the governor's recommendation. And why don't we start with fiscal year 21? Just to, if y'all will look at that and see if you have any questions specifically on fiscal year 21. Yes, Representative Riley.
I am noting on page 3 that we see there of 2021 current year that the governor is concurring with the agency's revised estimate, which includes 31 FTEs, which is 1 FTE greater. Did I miss something that on the previous page, it looks like 2020 budget included 28. That would be a jump of 3 FTEs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Norma, do you have an answer for that question?
Certainly, Madam Chair, if you'd like. So the 31 is an increase of 1 FTE.
I can't hear you. Right now,
Now,
it's better.
okay. It is an increase of 1 FTE above the fiscal year 2021 approved number. So in the 2020 legislature approved a fiscal year 2021 budget and an FTE number of 30.0 FTE for the state library. So that increase is 1 above the approved amount. I believe the state library noted that in fiscal year 2020, there was an IT consultant position that was left temporarily empty, and that is why you see that decrease in FTE in fiscal year 2020.
Did that answer your question, Representative?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it does, but where would I have looked to see the 30? I'm not seeing that easily on my sheet here.
Yeah, I don't think it's, or sorry, Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe I'm looking at it on page 7. I believe the request, if you look on page 1, the agency request for fiscal year 2021 was 31, and it looks like on page 7, the legislative approved for fiscal year 2021 was 30 FTE.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on fiscal year 2021? State Library. Okay, since it doesn't seem like there's a lot of changes or discussion, we'll just go on to fiscal year 2022. And if you have discussion, questions, and if there aren't any changes, we'll just put them both together in one motion. Okay, so 22, any discussion? Really, Norma, do you feel like there's any thing that you want to review with us that?
Certainly, I'll just note in fiscal year 2022, the GovRec is about $4,000 less than the agency request, and that's just due to the governor concurring with part of the agency's reduced resources budget.
Good, thank you. Thanks. Yes, Representative Rajes.
I move we approve the fiscal 22 governor's recommendations.
You say 22?
We are.
Yeah, well, we haven't approved 21 yet, so you could combine that motion if you would like to.
Yeah, then I will move that we approve fiscal year 2021 as presented and the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2022.
Do we have a second? Representative Amix, thank you. Okay, discussion on that. Okay, seeing none, would you like to close?
Close.
All those in favor of the motion to approve fiscal year 2021 and the governor's approved budget fiscal year 2022 for the state library, say aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. All right, our last one of the day, we are looking at the State Historical Society. as you look at this, and is Martin with us? Yes. Hi, Norma. Okay. Martin is with us. So if y'all have a question for Martin, he's there. Let's look at 2021. Any thoughts? I would note that the agency was estimating 85 FT positions, and I believe we heard that 70 are filled. I'm curious if y'all have any thoughts on that. Any discussion? Yes, Representative Burris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wonder if it might be appropriate to, I mean, could we reduce those FTE positions? I mean, do they need 85?
So I have a little bit of a procedure question, maybe Norma, for you. If knowing that those are not filled right now, and 2021 will be over in 4 months or so, can we approve something different as far as the FTs just for that particular time, believing that those 13 positions aren't going to be filled in the next 13 or the next 4 months? And it might save a little bit.
Well, they can't fill positions that they don't have money for. But the other aspect to that is usually when FTE are reduced, they're reduced and it continues. You could put a notation with it that you only want it reduced for 1 year, but usually once they're reduced, that continues.
Okay.
They would, in essence, have to increase them in the future if they needed them.
Unless we put a notation just for, okay. All right. Any discussion on that? Any thoughts, anybody?
Madam Chair, this is Jenny Chin, who I'm the director. Could I make one comment?
Yes, you may.
We have received a 10% cut, which is almost $500,000 from our budget by in the governor's recs. I need to give up those positions at that time. If that's what you pass, which is what I asked, I understand the need to cut. That is not the issue, but I'm afraid if you start eliminating FTEs right now, you're going to leave me with a double kind of cut here, that we will not fill any that we don't have the money for. The numbers that you look at are the numbers of the that we have some. We just have had one thing I did not anticipate about COVID-19. We had a lot of people retirement age and they all retired at once. And so we have plans to fill some of these before the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the cut from the governors for fiscal year 2022.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's true.
Yeah, okay, so we're just talking about 21 at the moment, but until we can get to that. Okay, any other thoughts on fiscal year 2021? Okay, we will move on to 2022. And I would note that if you all remember, it was the capital, I think it was the capital improvements that got the cut, because they had asked for 650,000 and the governor approved 200,000. And they have already raised over $6 million in private funds. And so it was this specifically was for the lobby, I think, for the Kansas Historical Museum. Representative Riley.
Madam Chair, and I think I can be clarified on that, but that $6 million, that was for a separate project that they were working on for the museum, not necessarily for this. Thank you.
Yes, that was the exhibits and everything in the museum, if I recall. And then the extra, the building fund coming, the capital improvement coming out of the SG was for the lobby, if I remember. Okay, any other discussion on that? We have moved to 21 didn't have any changes, so now we've moved to 22. I didn't have any motion. I didn't have anything for 21.
Madam Chair,
Representative Wassinger, yes.
I'd like to move that we accept the budget for 2021 for the State Historical Society as presented.
Would that be the governor's recommendation?
Governor's recommendation, yes, ma'am.
Okay, do I have a second on that? Representative Wynn. For a second. Okay, any other discussion? So we're doing 21 and 22, the governor's recommendation. To clarify. She just said,
Because we hadn't talked about 22 yet.
okay. Okay. You said
I thought
21?
you were trying to split them apart because you wanted to make comments about 22. So I thought we'd get.
Okay,
get
we can do
21 out of the
21.
way.
21 is on the table. Was that your understanding for your second, Representative Wynn? Okay, all right, right now we're talking about fiscal year 2021. We're going to get better at this, y'all. Well, we are going to vote on 21 first.
Get that out.
Okay, any other discussion on 21? Would you like to close?
Madam Chairman, I close.
So all those in favor of accepting the governor's recommended budget of the State Historical Society for 21, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, it's passed. Now, does anyone have any motions, recommendations, discussion on fiscal year 2022? Representative Amix.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Now, do I understand right, the $115,000 that has to come from the Educational Building Fund? We have to make that as part of this motion in 22?
Tell us what page you're looking on.
This is from my notes. Top of page 11. Does it need to be a separate motion?
Shirley, can you answer
Don't
that
think
for
so.
us, please?
That's all part of the governor's recommendation.
Okay. Mhm. Yes, Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment a thank you to the Historical Society for adapting in tough times and going out and hustling. I know how hard it is to fundraise in a pandemic. So kudos to you for finding some of the resources and getting us closer to where it is without state funding.
Would you like to have that be an official notation?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Agreed. Any other discussion? Representative Rajas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I understand if we go along with the governor's recommendation, the lobby at the Kansas Museum of History will not be corrected, correct? Because the money that was raised was for the drainage, right, and all that, or was it all together? Or was the money raised going to the building? I'm confused. I can't remember.
The private fund. So we are appropriating some funds for the repair of the flood, but then there were private funds raised for the museum, and then they were asking for SGF funds for the lobby.
Right, but, okay.
26.
Right, because I'm looking at 22. So they're two different things because Because the testimony, it was, the request was 600,000, but they only now need like 250,000. That's where I want to make sure I fully understand, because, and then I will yield, but I'm not done with my comments. So, Madam Chair, wherever you want to go next, but, because I think there may be some others who might be able to point some clarification.
Okay, all right. Would anyone like to clarify? Representative Amix, did you have a comment?
Madam Chair, this is Matthew Chappell with the Historical Society.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The 650 originally was what the project was for the lobby and the plaza area. And at the beginning of this year, because it was a part of the allotment taken, our agency had gone out and we had gotten private donations of $450,000. And so what we are asking for this is just that additional 200,000 in SGF. So the project is still on the plans and still moving forward. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much. Representative Amix, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I should not have done that.
That's fine, Madam Chair. Representative, I was just going to point out, and Madam Chair, going to point out for the committee, I think this answers the question. In the middle of page 11, the governor's recommendation of $200,000, all SGF, for the capital improvements to the entrance and lobby of the Kansas Museum of History. Is that what you were looking at?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative.
Right, that's where I guess I was, so the agency request was made, obviously, before they knew that, without the dollars, the private dollars that you knew where you, right, okay, I'm getting a head shake, okay, that's where I thought, because I knew we had worked on this, and Madam Chair, I would like to have a, what's the right term, a notation that, to commend the Historical Society for taking the initiative to find private funds to help fund, which is one of the great windows, welcoming spots for people when they come to Kansas. And that, you know, they have well over half now they have raised. And so that I would hope that our committee strongly recommends the $200 enhancement to finish the project. That this is not something that, I mean, this, so if you understand my wordage.
Yep. So is that a motion to put a notation in?
Yes, ma'am.
To commend them for raising $450,000 of private funds?
Yes, and surely will clean it up to make me sound more intelligent. So.
Okay. Is there, seconded by Representative Wassinger. Discussion on that? Yes, ma'am.
I would also like to add that I don't know if the director of the Historical Society remembers, I had a conversation with her now 3 years ago. And she was mentioning all of the problems that they had in their front lobby. And we had a little discussion about trying to get some private funds to fix the concrete. And so beyond that, she not only did that, but somehow came up with $6 million. And so that's why I want to commend them as well. And second, Representative Rogers's motion, because it's amazing. Not only did you do it, you really outdid what I had asked you to do. I just wanted you to get the concrete raised, and you just went way beyond that. So I don't know if you remember that discussion or not, but I do very clearly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? Would you like to close on your motion?
Excuse me. Madam Chair, and I don't know if it's a notation, but I think it should be recognized in your presentation to the full appropriations of how important Constitution Hall is to the history of the state of Kansas, and the Historical Society realizes that, and that using special revenue funds to do things like some rehabilitation work there, because that is, again, another very important piece of our history. So
Would you like to add that to your notation?
I don't know if it fits. Shirley, does it fit? I don't know. If not, maybe we do a second one. But I guess do a period and start again. Representative Washington, if you would agree with me to go on with that, that's fine. But I think that is important. And with that, Madam, let's see, are we doing 22 or are we doing it
Well,
all?
first, we're just doing the notation. We're
Oh,
gonna
I'm
vote on the
sorry. Yes, do
notation.
the notation. I was getting ahead of myself.
Okay,
I close.
all those in favor of the notation as noted, say aye. Opposed?
That a comment.
Okay, Representative Amix.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the representative's comments about Constitution Hall. And again, I welcome everybody to the 45th District and stop by and see Compton, Kansas.
Thank you for that. I wish we could do a field trip of this committee. Maybe we could. How long would it take us to get there? Wow. Okay, we may just have a special meeting someday and take a field trip. That's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, now what is everyone's feeling on the FY 2022 budget of the Kansas Historical Society? Representative Amix.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to concur with the governor's recommendation. FY 2022 budget as amended.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Representative Rogers, second. Discussion on that. Okay, would you like to close, Representative? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the governor's recommended budget for 2022 on the Kansas Historical Society, please say aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and we have passed that. Congratulations, committee. We have passed out our first 4 budgets. The easy ones, yes. Representative
Thank you,
Wassinger.
Madam Chair. I did want to explain, that's why I wanted to do 2021 separately from 2022, so that we could recognize the fact that how much they actually did.
Okay, I think that worked
Thank
out
you.
well. Yep. Okay, Shirley, would you like to go over with the group how we used to get signatures when we agreed, but it's going to be a little bit different now? Would you like to explain that? Thank you.
The 4 budgets we will put together subcommittee reports with the recommendations from the committee. Since we have a couple of notations, I will get with the people on the notations and make sure we say what you want reflected. We will then put those subcommittees together in what we call a packet, because that's what you're going to report out, is these 4 together. Since we don't do paper packets anymore with signatures, after the chair has approved the subcommittees, I will bundle them together into a PDF. I will email it to you blind copied so that you cannot reply all and have a conversation. And if you would let us know with an email that you agree to move it on in the process, it does not mean you're agreeing with the notations or the recommendations, but you're just moving it through the process. If you disagree with moving it through the process, you need to provide the chair with something in writing so that she can let the chair of appropriations know that you don't agree with the process. The other avenue, if you would like, because you disagree with the recommendations, is to do a minority report. And again, that doesn't mean minority party. It means a minority disagreement with what the recommendations were. So I will email that to you, hopefully either late Friday or Monday, so that we can get the copies together for Tuesday.
Will that email be coming from you, Shirley?
Yes.
Okay, so be looking for an email from Shirley Friday afternoon or Monday morning on these 4 recommendations. Okay, anything else for the good of the committee? Next week is going to be a very busy, full week because we will be hearing from our regents. And we are meeting Monday, so plan on that. And Shirley.
If I could just make a comment, the Board of Regents, we used to do separate budget reports for each university. We now do one. So I will present that Monday before the Board of Regents testifies. I just want to note and maybe apologize beforehand. You are going to have at least 3 different agencies testify on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's time consuming. If there are a lot of questions, I would be absolutely happy after I give you the budget analysis, and I can send that out early if you want to look at it beforehand. If we get a lot of questions, if I could sit down with whoever has the questions personally in your office and go over things just to make sure that all of the different presidents get the time to testify, because the time will go very fast.
So Shirley, when might you get that out, and when could we expect to get an email from John with that information? He already has it. Okay, so as long as we don't discuss it among ourselves, I think it could be great for y'all to take a look at over the weekend. But we cannot be discussing it among the committee, but please look at it yourself. Make notes if you want to ask Shirley questions, if everyone's agreeable to that. Okay. Okay, John, that'd be great if everyone could take a look. It's going to be a full week. So, okay. Anything else for the good of the committee? Yes, Representative Rajas.
You have the agenda, or you can send the agenda of who's presenting on what days next week. Do you have that available, or? It is.
We've been getting a lot of emails lately, so I'm sure it's, yeah.
That's one of those 100 and some that I haven't read yet.
Yes,
Today.
yeah, we all. Okay, anything else? Okay, then we are adjourned.